Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us on the show today. Today, I'm joined by Kimberly Scalero and Michael Cohn of Summit Business Technologies. The topic of today's show is the Maryland Cyber Tax Credit entitled Buy Maryland Cybersecurity, the acronym BMC, Tax Credit. Now, we're coming live here. I'm actually located in Turk Valley where we're doing some seminars today, and Kimberly and Michael are actually joining us from their office. Good morning, Michael. Good morning, Kimberly.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, thank you so much for joining us this morning. For those who don't know about the credit, this credit is available to any Maryland business that is a corporation, a partnership, an LLC, a sole proprietorship with less than 50 employees. Before we get into the details about the credit, Kimberly and Michael are going to share with us what qualifies for the credit and a little bit about the credit. So, Michael, Kimberly, the floor is yours.
Sure. The Buy Maryland Cybersecurity Tax Credit provides an incentive for qualified Maryland companies to purchase cybersecurity technologies and services from a qualified Maryland cybersecurity reseller. Qualified Maryland companies claim a tax credit for 50% of the net purchase price of cybersecurity technologies up to $50,000 and services purchased from a qualified Maryland cybersecurity reseller. The tax credit must be claimed for the tax year in which the purchase is made. There is a list on their website of the qualified Maryland cyber resellers, and Summit Technologies is actually on that list. The tax credit is awarded on a first come, first served basis and is subject to funding available to the Department of Commerce. 25% of the annual funding amount is earmarked for cybersecurity service purchases, and the remaining 75% is available for cybersecurity technology purchases. And to be eligible for the tax credit, a company must have fewer than 50 employees in Maryland and be required to file an income tax return in Maryland. A company is identified as a qualified Maryland company when applying for the tax credit by certifying the number of employees, and that is required to file a tax return in Maryland. Sandy?
Yeah, well, this is some great information. This is a really super credit, especially for what's going on with the push with the IRS to step up the security practices in tax practices. This is a great value for our tax professionals who are spending funds to do these upgrades that the IRS is now requiring. So how can someone apply for the credit? And Michael, I believe you've already done this process.
Go ahead, Mike.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to step in and first of all, I can answer any of your questions. I'm sure there may be a lot of questions here. But Summit Business Technologies is a qualified reseller. So what that means is that in 2017, the state let the cybersecurity companies in the state know that they were going to create this tax credit. And it's really a dual type of benefit for Maryland companies. First, it helps the Maryland cybersecurity companies grow their business with important things that they do. And second, of course, it helps the small businesses in Maryland. So Summit was a very early adopter in going through the qualification process. So one important thing to understand is that there's only 24 companies in Maryland that have qualified for the to be a cybersecurity reseller. So if your organization uses a different IT support, you might have internal IT support, or you might have your own vendor that you use. You can still participate in the program and get your tax credit, but you have to also work through one of the 24 qualified companies because they know the ropes. They've gone through all the processes to be qualified. We, for example, can work with an IT support organization that an end user company has, or we can work directly with you, as can anyone else. But to find the list of 24 companies to see if your provider's on that list, you can go to a link on some of the web pages for the Maryland Department of Commerce, and we'll provide you a link. So you can check those 24 companies to see if your provider's on the list. I would suspect that if your provider was on the list, they would have let you know by now.
Now, Michael, it's my understanding that you have to, this credit, if you're going to apply for it, you have to do it by December 31st if you're going to apply for it for 2019. Is that correct?
So 2019 is done. There's no way that you can participate in 2019.
Oh,
However, in 2020, they've doubled the amount of tax credit revenue available. So in 2019, there was only $2 million set aside for the tax credit.
okay.
In 2020, there'll be $4 million available. And so a couple of things to think about that. First of all, your tax credit, we say 50% of what you invest in qualified cybersecurity products or services is qualified for the tax credit. And that number is pretty big. That can be up to $50,000.
Right.
So you can buy up to $100,000 worth of qualified materials at 50% off with the tax credit. So it's a pretty large amount that you can acquire. When the $4 million is gone in 2020, you submit your request during the year. You submit your request as soon as you've finished implementing whatever it is that you're implementing. When the $4 million is done, then there's no more for 2020. We would project, because we kind of have a feeling, since there's only 24 qualified resellers, we kind of know how it's being used. And we would suspect that probably by the third quarter, and this is not guaranteed information, but probably by the third quarter, they might be running out of the $4 million, but they definitely would not be running out of it in the first quarter and the second quarter. And also, it's a bit of a process, like anything with the government. You have to follow the rules, you have to be very precise, and you have to wait a little bit. But it does work. We actually helped some of our customers get the credit for 2019, and the process does work. So
just to recap, so say one of my tax professionals had some work done last month and is applying for the credit. If they haven't submitted their application at this point in time, the 2019 window is closed. So if they did not do that and they actually spent the funds in 2019, they really lost out. The boat has left the dock. Is that what you're telling me?
it's based on the invoice date that your vendor gives you. So if your vendor gave you an invoice dated in 2020, you could probably submit it in 2020. But 2019, if the work was done, you can still submit your request up to December 31st. But if you haven't done the work and through a qualified reseller, I don't think there's a way in the next week that you can take advantage of it.
Okay.
The first thing would be to check this list and see if your reseller, your IT company, is on this list.
Right.
If you do internal IT support, you would have had to purchase the services or the product from a qualified reseller. I'm just going to say that that's probably unlikely. So you need to focus it. But I would like to point out that besides your accounting group, you guys are going to be talking with your small business customers over the next few months. And you can probably add a lot of value to your services by, suggesting to them that they take advantage of this for their businesses.
Sure.
And, that certainly is a helpful customer thing to do.
That makes sense. And and also, I just want to confirm, because at first you said it was just for equipment, but this is equipment as well as support services?
So here's how that works. Couple of things to be aware of. First of all, this is not any IT support. So if you have, for example, a managed service agreement with a vendor that hosts your email and patches your workstations, that does not qualify. That is not cybersecurity. So I'm going to come back to my statement. First, identify a qualified reseller.
Sure.
Because they will guide you to the things that qualify.
Okay.
So in general, if you have a security-oriented investment, either in a product that you buy, let's say mostly that would be lots of times virus software, that would be sort of intrusion detection, additional things that fortify your network, a lot of things that relate to firewalls, a lot of things that relate to other products that you may not buy, on your own, but you would want to do that because they do provide additional security. The qualified resellers are very, very educated in telling you and guiding you to the products that qualify. And the way that the $4 million works is they have allocated $3 million of that $4 million to products that people purchase.
Okay.
Which would be improved firewalls and the services nowadays that you can get that go with firewalls and the types of services that protect you from phishing and that sort of thing. So 3/4 of the money is for products and 1/4 of the money is for services. So if you purchased a much better firewall, for example, the product would count against the $3 million pool available, and the labor cost that someone put in and configured would count against the $1 million.
Oh, okay.
So there's one other thing that I would point out that's very easy to qualify for and incredibly useful, and that is security awareness training. So that person wasn't here, that person was here. So one of the things to realize about security for any size business is that 80% of the problems, of the vulnerabilities, of the cyber attacks that businesses are having to endure, 80% of them generally come from issues that are initiated by your own staff. And only 20% are hardware oriented, like a better firewall or a better virus protection. You have to do both. But the biggest vulnerability you have is your own people who do things that invite a problem to happen. Either they click on a bad link or they get involved with something which is phishing, which is social engineering. They don't even realize it.
Right.
So security awareness training is definitely covered. And sometimes that's covered as a service, and sometimes it's covered as a product. So for example, we have a product that we built that we can sell as a product, the bigger pool, and it's called Fish Goggles, and it provides a year's worth of security awareness training to your entire company on a very low impact basis, just a couple minutes a week. You get an email, you get a little module, you get a lot of interaction, you get current events, raises the awareness of people who work for you, so they're less likely to click on a bad link, they're less likely to get fooled by social engineering. There's a lot of people sending money to the wrong places in different industries because they thought they were sending it to where that wire was supposed to go to, and they've been fooled for a long period of time. There's lots of things that go on. So a year's worth of security awareness training raises your awareness. You remember things, but you forget them if you're not constantly
Sure.
reminded. And so that qualifies, for example, as a service. And that generally is, you can get security awareness training from lots of different places, different levels of quality, different approaches to it. We have a specific approach. Other people have other approaches. But generally, if you just want to get one thing, you have a firewall already, there's definitely some utilities that you can get through this program. But I would suggest that you focus on getting your people trained in security awareness training by a qualified entity, whether it's us or anyone else. That's a very big bang for your buck for you and for your customers. And when you do your taxes of your customers this year, I am certain that if you asked every single person, you would find 3 or 4 companies that sent money to a place that they shouldn't have sent it to and didn't get it back. It's that prevalent.
Oh, yeah, we see that, you're right. I mean, this is happening all the time, whether it be coming through emails, phone calls, through text. It's happening all the time. And like I said, this is some really great information. And as you said, not only is this useful information, not only for my members who are tax professionals and accounting professionals, but also for the clients they represent. Let me just ask this one question. So as a reseller of the product, or with what you do when you apply, is do you have to apply annually as well? So say I look at the list right now and I see who the possible people I can contact to get this service. Do you have to reapply? So maybe the list will change as of January 1st, or once you're on the list, you're on the list?
The list is always real time. So we'll work out a way that we can get your members the link to the list, because if you try to find it on the Department of Commerce website, you have to be a genius. But we'll give you the link to that list. It's a live real-time list. We do have to requalify, but it's our, we do that. It's in our best interest. It's in the folks' best interest. It's not a really simple thing. It's not a form you fill out and send in and poof, you're qualified. You have to make some investment as a qualified reseller, and you have to know what you're doing.
Okay.
I know a lot of people ask, well, how do I get this credit? And rather than go through that whole process, my advice is work with your qualified reseller, because it's in their best interest and your best interest. Everybody's aligned. I did want to point out that Maryland's really pretty cool about this. Maryland invented this concept. They are the only state right now, they were the only state in 2019 that created this type of a tax credit to encourage their small businesses to be safer and to support the growth of the cybersecurity industry in the state, because the cybersecurity industry is too small. It's not big enough to support all the needs in the state. So it's kind of a win-win with that. And what I noticed in 2019 when I went to some of the events that the Commerce Department hosted is that there were always visitors from other states who were learning the ropes, learning the pluses and minuses of how Maryland did this. So it's pretty cool to be in Maryland, and Maryland have this program that is a win-win type of tax credit for all of its businesses.
Yes, and you're right. I think the Maryland Chamber of Commerce was very active in this, and actually, they actually put together a webinar back on November 2018 that we're actually going to be sharing the link for that, so that they can view this, so they can see additional information and how this evolved from the initial thoughts and then moving forward from it. And like you said, I think this is really a feather in the cap for Maryland for the job they're doing, not only for the cybersecurity to protect our clients, but also to increase the knowledge and awareness about cybersecurity in the profession as well as in the business arena. So I think this is very important.
So to get information about the program, my recommendation is just work through your cybersecurity approved reseller, because so we can send you a link to the list of 24 people.
Mm-hmm.
Very easily. You can see all of them there. One thing that happened that I noticed from one event in 2019 was one accounting person from a mid-sized accounting firm called all of their customers about this opportunity. And I wasn't real involved. I let that person know, but I wasn't really involved in how they distribute the information. And I talked with her a month later, and I said, "How did it go?" And she said, "None of our people that we contacted had vendors who were on the list, so none of them were interested." And that's not the way it works.
Right.
If you have an IT support company that is not on the list, then you can still contact one of the people that are on the list and tell them that you're working with an IT, you have an IT provider, you have a contract with an MSP or something like that.
Sure.
And the certified company will work with that MSP to arrange things so that you do qualify for the credit.
Okay.
So just because your vendor is not on the list doesn't mean you're blocked out of the program.
Oh, that's good to know.
They'll have to cooperate with the other vendor, but nobody's taking over anybody else's business. It's not a competitive thing. Your vendor would have to make purchases of the product through the qualified vendor. And
Okay.
there's a little bit more paperwork, but it can be done. So just if your customers, or if your business or your customer's business uses a vendor that's not on the list, then contact someone on the list, tell them that, and they'll work it out to make it work.
Right.
We certainly do that. If some vendor decides they don't want to do that, it's too much trouble, then we certainly do that, and we're happy to work with your vendor. We don't expect people to switch vendors because of this.
Well,
If you have internal IT support, or you're looking for a vendor, then that's a good way to actually find good quality vendors from that list, because you have to be at a certain level to get on that list. So it's a good way to vet.
Very good point, because you're right, because they've already done the legwork, and they are already supporting the state has done that process, and or the chamber, and so having that nice list of possible companies to work with is good to have. So yes, if you could share that with us, Michael, that would be great, and then we can put that out at a later date to our viewers.
That'd be great.
I do have a question or a statement. So once, if the person does get the credit, then they'll receive a certificate that they will attach to the tax return to verify that the credit is valid. And I believe it's going to be item number 0 or letter 0 on the tax return of the individual. And then, of course, on the corporate, it'll just be attached to the corporate return. And in the state of Maryland, remember, this is a Maryland credit, not a federal credit, a Maryland credit only. So this is very important. So I think that takes care of it. Is there any final words, Michael or Kimberly, that you'd like to share before we sign off for the day?
Well, we're very active in promoting security awareness with businesses. We are connected with a lot of Maryland government things, and of course we work with our customers, we work with manufacturers and other things. One thing that we do is we have a little free thing that we send out approximately once a week, which we call the scam of the week or the phishing email of the week. And it just comes to you and it says, this is a real email that's in the wild right now that's fake. And they're from Bass Pro Shops, Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, they're enticing you to give up some private information or sometimes worse things. So what I would like to ask is, if you go to our website, summitbiztech.com/contact, and you'll get to our contact page. And if you care to leave your email address and your information, we'll only use it for this purpose. But we, down the bottom, the very last checkbox says cyber information. And maybe even leave a message that says you're on this Facebook stream. Then if it's okay, we will just enlist you to receive about 1 email a week, and it will contain a clearly identified, but a fake email that is being circulated right now. A lot of these emails are very topical. You're going to find a lot of them about, we delivered a package on your doorstep, or there's a lot of Thanksgiving. There's a lot of holiday-oriented emails that, or there's a problem with your shipment. Click here to get information about the problem with your shipment. And once you click there, many things can happen other than you putting in bad information. So we are happy to provide this little thing, once a week. And frankly, if you're really interested in it, then there is a little information there about our Fish Goggles product, which is a 1-year subscription. For a company with 50 people, it would cost about $100 a year per person. So, but it comes with a lot of personal contact. Your people really, really get educated over the course of a year. And so if you want to leave something on summitbiztech.com/contact, your information, identify it for that purpose, and we'll only use it to send you this little thing once a week. And you can share it. The important thing about getting fake information that is fake is that you share it. You share it with not only your staff members, but you take it home and you show your 12-year-old and you show your spouse and you talk about it with your neighbor, because security awareness is raised by people talking about it all the time. And we have a lot of programs that deal with the psychology of remembering things and security awareness. It's not that people don't know they're doing something dumb. It's that they do something dumb and they immediately 1 second after that realize they did something dumb. And it's because they're distracted or they're not thinking about it. Yeah. So that's how our program works. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share the information with you. And if you have any interest in further things, obviously you know our website. And we're very much involved with helping small businesses become and stay secure in the most economical way possible. Thanks for the opportunity.
Well, thank you so much. I'll tell you, you shared a lot of great information for us and brought awareness about the credit to our members, and hopefully they can pass that on to their clients. Sadly, it is disappointing that we missed the boat on 2019, but it sounds like with 2020 we have a better opportunity with the doubling of the funds that is available to us, and hopefully we can get that process and people can at least begin that conversation with their clients when they begin meeting with them during the tax season, and taking this opportunity to do that, and also saving their clients some money. So that is a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, Kimberly and Michael, for joining us this morning. And I want to thank everyone else who has joined us this morning. Now I want to remind everybody that next week we all will be enjoying some holiday time. And I want to wish everyone, you and your families, a very happy and wonderful holiday. And I will see you in 2020. So we'll be back live on January 2nd, on Thursday, January 2nd. And again, have a happy holiday and a very, very blessed new year.